Hello and welcome to Collector Creations. In this anatomy of a Blu-ray, I'm diving into Umbrella's new lizard in a woman's skin. The amount of times I thought it was just woman in a lizard skin, because, I don't know, I grew up with Doctor Who, that's a thing. So, I'll do my unboxing first, and then once I have actually finally watched the film, I will add to the rest of that with my Blu-ray review. I'll look at this video, I'll look at the audio, I'll look at the special features, and yeah, timestamps down below, obviously. So let's dig into it. So first off, this actually comes with a well, it's not a J card, it's a little back card that was stuck with a little splodge on it to obviously advertise what it comes with, including its extra details. It's Region B. I will test if it is Region B locked, but it is limited to 1,000 units. This is the limited edition set, which I didn't anticipate on buying. I just was able to get it on sale, basically. Hooray for accidentally buying stuff at Supernova and then cancelling my order and then being like, hey, I bought another order, and they were like, hey, you're a VIP member, here's like a couple percentage off. So I got this with the Raid, which will also come out if it hasn't already come out. This comes with a, 1.8 to 1 screen aspect ratio and a 2.0 dual mono track with Italian and English. I'll probably listen to the Italian track. I like my Fulci films Italian. What can I say? So yeah, it's English subtitles, Region B, 103 minutes long. And it comes with a commentary, which I won't be looking at, but it is a brand new commentary. Lucio in a Woman's Skin, a visual essay by the Flying Macite brothers. Okay, I'm definitely mispronouncing that. No One, and 100 Fulcis, a visual essay by Howard S. Berger, who also did the commentary, and Francesco Massagessi. Oh my god, I did Italian for 9 years and I still can't pronounce words properly. Anyway, there's also Down Dangerous Roads, Kim Newman on Stanley Baker, Shedding the Skin, a 2005 documentary by Chris Gavin, which I don't know how much of that I'll dive into, given it, I assume, will be quite lengthy, but I'll give you runtimes as we go along. When Worlds Collide, Stephen Thrower on a lizard in a woman's skin, from Burton to Baker, an interview with actor Tony Adams, as well as alternate Italian opening credits, Lucio Fulci trailer reel, and a trailer. So let's take a look at the packaging. Honestly, really like the packaging. The bats, the actress who I'm pretty sure I've seen in another Fulci film, if not a couple of other giallos before. I did 29 giallos in February because I just keep buying them, so I figured I might as well do a whole watch. So I was really excited for this one because I love Fulci's films, from his giallo to his, I don't know, his whole range. He's got a hell of a range. Nothing on the top or the base, but yeah. I like the color palette. It's nice, it's creamy. Warning, not recommended viewing for persons with schizophrenic tendencies. Gee whiz, is that going to be one of those foreshadowing things? Biting, gnawing terror claws at your brain. It's bad. We got ourselves what appears to be a lot of art cards, which I will tear that little thingy off. These are nice for keeping them bound initially, but I can never get them back on properly. So these all seem to be not double-sided art cards. The devout followers of the Fulci Covenant Pledge. There's a thingy that allows you to sign here in blood. Of course, it has a picture from Zombie, a picture from a film I feel like I recognize. That might also be Zombie, but it's definitely a guy with his eye being poked out, as you can see down below there, if it'll focus. It looks familiar. I'm not always great at picking up movies and what they actually are from. But this is a whole thing. In the clandestine embrace of night, under the watchful gaze of the moon, we, the devout followers of the Fulci Covenant, solemnly pledge. Sorry, I keep thinking it's convent, but it's just covenant. Too much Halo in my brain. Solemnly pledge our undying allegiance to the legacy of Lucio Fulci, maestro of the macabre and sovereign of the supernatural. With the shadows as our sanctuary and the chill of the night air our witness, we commit to the following sacred tenets, each word sealed with a drop of our essence, our very lifeblood. You've got eternal devotion, sacred knowledge, ritualistic celebration, covenant of silence, creative sacrifice, the blood pact, In these vows we embrace the shadows, the terror, and the beauty of Lucio Fulci's world. We walk forth into the darkness together, bound by blood, forever disciplines of the macabre maestro Lucio Fulci. I'd read the whole thing, but I don't want to take up time with the runtime. Ooh. For reference sake, there is one here I cannot show because not just does it have nipples, it also has a penis. So I cannot show this one image. You know what? There are two more here that both feature nudity as well in terms of boobies and people definitely having sex. So I imagine this is a very sexual film. I was going to try to show those whilst narrating all that stuff, but it just is impossible to do because there's a lot of stuff. But these are chunky, very big art cards. The pledge is very nice. I'd read out the whole thing, but we don't have time. We have a booklet as well, which is just has the title of the movie, showing images as well. With a figurine. Oh my god, an action figure. Man, I cannot wait to watch this film. From the hit motion picture Lizard in a Woman's Skin, the Fulci Collection, brought to you by Ebon Toys. What is it? Established 1990. New. Unraveling. You got a Chris Gavin did an essay, which I don't want to dive too much into because I imagine there'll be more nudity, vaguely nudity. Oh, look, zombie flesh eaters in the beyond. This is cute. So it's little fake tie-ins. I mean, they might be real tie-ins, but I'm pretty sure they're fake. But that's really cute because those two are both great films and great images. I love how they provide stills with them. What else is there? Anything else? Just in time for Christmas. Oh my god, the kids are going to be so happy. You know, those kids like the flesh of the undying. My god. House by the Cemetery playset. Look, you can get the house from House by the Cemetery. Man, this is really cool. And looks legitimate. I'm trying to tell if this is like fake images or whatever, but it seems really interesting. I don't know, it actually seems pretty legit. Like, even if they're like mock-ups and stuff, like at least they look legitimate and whatever. Then an image of Atticus Frost, whoever that may be, which is an interview. And then, of course, it credits all of the films. Oh, is there any nudity on this? No, indiscreetly, probably because this is the standard slipcover, which has on the spine, you know, Woman in Lizard Skin, a film by Lucio Fulci with his face there. If it'll focus, there you go. Woman in a Lizard Skin. Same on the other side. The back does feature vaguely nipples, so I won't obviously show them on the YouTubes. Let's pop this open. It is the same image from the front, but it's obviously like a couple frames later. Like the same image as that. A couple frames later, so obviously there's going to be a lot of nudity in this movie. And then you have R18 rated the contents of this high in impact, whatever that means. It's so impactful. You're going to become a fucking freak or something. So this is the standard version, including the special features, all detailed previously, of course. So this would be your standard version. Woman in Lizard Skin. You get... Oh my god. Damn, that's really... Look, the artwork there is really nice. But look at that. What the hell is that? I might, just for the hell of it. It's obviously all in Italian. I'm definitely going to flip this around. Mostly because it's the benefit of it being a clear case is that you can flip it around and still see the artwork underneath, which is really nice. This is an amazing set. I'm concerned that the film won't live up to it, but knowing Fulci, even if you don't really like the films the first time, you might fall in love with them the second time. I didn't like Zombie Flesh Eaters the first time I watched it, because I didn't understand what I was getting myself into, and then I rewatched it like 2 years later, and I was just like, you know, this film actually really slaps. So, you know, we all make mistakes, but you get used to it, because some films are just strange by design. So the original poster here, Una lagartija con pia del muja. You know, I can pretend that I can speak Italian. That's good enough for me. Schizoid. Dun 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 dun. Man, this would not be considered politically correct now. Who cares? So, in terms of video and audio, what is there to say? Video honestly looks stunning. I feel like I'd argue it's like a 2K remaster or something. They don't stipulate any actual technical details, but it looks fantastic. I honestly, unless there was ever like a 4K UHD or something that came out, like if Arrow Video got their hands on it, for example, this is the best the film has looked probably ever, and that's a good thing. So video is an immediate must, especially if you're a Fulci fan. Like, this is such a great way to watch the film. Audio-wise, I watched the Italian version because, you know, it's a giallo. Of course, you're going to watch the Italian. But I actually ended up flicking between the two, especially because one of the video essays talked about how, who was it? Someone Baker, Stanley Baker, is British because the film is set in London and the majority of the cast are actually English actors. Some of them just happen to also be Italian, and because it's an Italian film, it was all actually eventually dubbed in Italian anyway. And so I watched in Italian because I would preference that personally because I just like that with my giallos. But I did go back and watch the parts, certain scenes in the English version, and I noticed a few things. Firstly, it sounded a lot cleaner and crisper in its Italian, probably because it's all studio stuff, like all done in post. But the English stuff still sounded pretty good. There was a hiss to it, there was still some crackles every once in a while, but I mean, it still sounded like a pretty good track. So, I mean, realistically, if you want to listen to it in English, there's no harm in it. The dialogue is sometimes a little bit different, you know, from certain scenes. Like one of them, they were talking about a murder in the English version, but in the Italian version, they were talking about a crime. So, there was a differentiating aspect, which I can imagine probably comes down to how you can phrase it for the dub, how it can look on their lips kind of deal. So that's kind of pretty traditional when it comes to like Studio Ghibli dubs with their like English versions compared to their Japanese versions. So it's not too different. It gets the same point across. It's not like a completely different take on the film. So encouraging. Nonetheless, you can listen to it either. The subtitles are easy to read, so you can go with either or. Picture and audio, pretty nice. The English one could have been cleaned up a little bit more, but at the same time, I think it still works really well for what it is. Special features wise, there is a lot. I didn't even get into diving into every single one of them just because of mostly how late it is, and I want this video to come out today, and it ain't gonna come out today. I looked at the brand new stuff. There is a new audio commentary by, as I mentioned before, Troy Howarth and Howard S. Berger, and I did want to listen to that, and I actually kind of really do, because Howard S. Berger narrates two other visual essays, and he actually co-wrote one, and they're really good. So it'd be really interesting to hear him talk about it, especially with Troy Howarth. But the first video essay, which is Lucio in a Woman's Skin, a visual essay by the Flying Machis brothers, is actually narrated by Berger, but it's written by the brothers. This is insanely fascinating. It's a beautiful dive. It's 20 minutes long. It talks about the film's use of surrealism and how it's inspired by surreal artists whose paintings are sometimes actually on display in the film. Even while looking at the English dub, there was a half a second where you see this swan in the background, and I'm like, hey, that's the swan that's in like her dream sequence later in the film. It's like, oh my god. Stunning film. It talks about how Fulci used the film as a surreal outlet for his own emotions after his wife's sudden suicide in 1969, but it's mostly a huge dive into contrasting like the visuals in the film to the actual like surrealist paintings. And it's when you realize it, you're like, okay, I get it. Like there's like a lot of homage. There's a lot of like, it's just a whole general motif, and it looks, it's astounding. And it gives you a whole great perspective on the film, especially on a rewatch. Like it tells you about like what exactly the lizard and woman skin meaning. You know, is it a metaphor? Is it a literal thing? It's not a literal thing in the film, like in that one image in that booklet, which I found hilarious. It's more referenced in the film, but it's also like a metaphor, and it's just wonderful. It is a beautiful video essay, and if there's one thing to take away from the set, it is just that, in terms of its special features. But there is so much more. There is what's the name? One, No One, and 100 Fulcis, which is a 36-minute-long video essay by Howard S. Berger and Francesco Massachetti. Massachesi? I'm going to say Massachesi. This is also an essay that talks about Fulci as a person now, as an artist. They look at Fulci's comedy films, examining some sequences in context with violence despite the humor. They also dive into Fulci's westerns and some of his horror films, all with this pretext of a cinema of cruelty. Kind of this idea that, like, no matter how funny Fulci could be in his comedies, there was always a nature of violence. There's a whole scene in a club which they show that's just, there's just fun little song and dance number, and then everyone starts brawling, and it's just this whole elaborate brawl. But they contrast that to his later horror films that have all these gnarly, grotesque stuff that are really meant to trigger the audience, and also some of how that can be considered to be somewhat ironic, somewhat humorous, especially for Don't Torture a Duckling, which the same lead actress is in both of these two films, and that's my favourite Fulci film, and there's a specific scene in that film that involves her character being assaulted, but it's got this kind of it's got the radio playing in the background, and they're showing this scene in this video essay. It's all just jazzy and uplifting and whatever, and it's just the most traumatic stuff that you're watching set to this almost ironic kind of score, and it's really interesting. It's a good, very interesting video essay that covers his whole career. So definitely worth looking into. There's also a 12-minute long video of Kim Newman on Stanley Baker, where he discusses Baker's career from minor roles to larger roles before eventually diving into Lizard in a Woman's Skin. It's amusing because he's a British actor dubbed in the Italian version, but of course you can still hear him speaking English in the English version. Not to mention the fact that his whistle, which is in the whole film, both versions, is still him whistling both times, even if they've dubbed it in the Italian version, which I find to be really amusing. So yeah, that's a really insightful essay. Again, classic Kim Newman, who just knows a bunch of stuff and/or has done a lot of research, and is good amount of clips provided to give some context as well, both for a visual factor and to show his progression as a character actor and whatnot. So very nicely done. And outside of the trailer reel, the credits, and the alternate Italian opening, all of which, the Italian opening is just the main opening, but just with the Italian name, and it's very Grindhouse-esque because it's just taken from an old trailer reel kind of stuff. There is Shedding the Skin, which is a 33-minute long documentary, which also comes with a audio commentary. Which it's from 2005 by Chris Gavin, who is one of the actors in the film, or at least one of the actors in the film presents it, and it's long. I didn't watch it because there was just so much said and done, but it's again one of those. It dives into what the giallo is and what the film is in contrast to the genre. That was at least a good enough impression I got from it from early on, which I'm very happy to actually. I would definitely get around to watching that, as well as When Worlds Collide, which is 30 minutes long, which is Stephen Thrower on A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, and then there's From Burton to Baker, an interview with actor Tony Adams, which is 12 minutes long. So I've got an extra 72 minutes worth of footage to dive into, not to mention the audio commentary, and then probably watching it again just for the English version. But as an overall, this film is amazing. I gave this film 4.5 stars. I loved it. It's such a bizarre giallo, and I love giallo, so anytime that there's one that does something a little bit different, I'm like, oh, this is something else. And Fulci is my favourite Italian director. I absolutely adore his films. No matter how brutal and gnarly they get, there is something so essential and artistic about it, and this is such a pivotal piece that I'm so happy to own now. So even if you just get the standard release, I would highly recommend this film. I would highly recommend this release. Or Region B. I will test if it's Region A. Alright, I just tested it. It is Region A. So I believe it's Region 3 in general. At least Region A and B are tested, and it works. So perfect for importing as well if you're in the US or other Region A countries. So, as a Fulci fan, I highly recommend it. As an Italian horror film fan, I highly recommend it. As an umbrella set, this limited edition is exceptional. It's a beautiful set. But alternatively, the standard edition is also really nice. So I definitely would suggest keeping an eye out for it and hoping to God you can get this crazy ass artwork. So yeah. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week when I do more videos about Blu-rays I own. Goodbye.